Jack Reacher got off the bus in Harmony Creek for no reason at all. It was just a name on a sign, a place to stretch his legs, a dot on a map he had no intention of memorizing. The sun was high, the air was clean, and the town looked like a postcard from a time that never really existed. Lawns were manicured with surgical precision. Houses were painted in cheerful pastels. Not a single piece of litter danced in the gentle breeze. It was perfect. Too perfect. Reacher's internal alarm, a finely tuned instrument honed by years in the military police and a lifetime of trouble, began to hum at a low, almost inaudible frequency. He walked, no destination in mind, his only luggage a folded toothbrush in his pocket. The people he passed smiled. Not the quick, polite nod of strangers, but wide, practiced smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. They drove new cars, wore clean clothes, and moved with a serene purpose that felt alien to him. There was no grit, no friction. It was a town holding its breath. He stopped at a small park in the town square. A woman sat on a bench, watching a little girl on the swings. The girl, maybe 8 years old, had bright red hair that flew like a banner every time she soared into the air. She was laughing, a pure, crystalline sound that seemed to be the only authentic thing in the entire town. Reacher watched them for a moment, then his eyes narrowed. A large black sedan, the kind that absorbs light and whispers of authority, pulled up to the curb. A man in a tailored suit got out. He didn't approach the woman and child. He just stood there, watching. The woman on the bench saw him. Her smile vanished, replaced by a mask of rigid calm. She called to the little girl. "Lily, time to go." The girl's laughter died. She ran to her mother, but her eyes darted to the man by the car. For a split second, Reacher saw it, a flash of raw, undiluted terror in the child's eyes. It was there, and then it was gone, expertly hidden. The mother took Lily's hand, her grip white-knuckled, and walked towards the car. As they passed, the little girl dropped a small, worn teddy bear. She didn't stop. She didn't look back. Her mother pulled her along, her steps quick and mechanical. The man in the suit opened the rear door for them, his face a blank slab of indifference. The car purred away, leaving the teddy bear lying forlornly on the grass. Reacher waited. Nobody else seemed to have noticed. The other smiling parents and happy children continued their play, their collective gaze sliding past the abandoned toy. Reacher walked over and picked it up. It was old, one button eye missing, the fabric loved to a soft fuzz. He stood there, the bear in his big hand, the low hum in his gut turning into a steady thrum. He had planned to catch the next bus out. Plans change. He found a diner called the Harmony Grill. It was as clean and sterile as the rest of the town. He took a seat at the counter and ordered black coffee. The waitress, a young woman with tired eyes that didn't match her forced smile, slid the cup in front of him. Her name tag read Sarah. "Passing through?" she asked, her voice a low monotone. "Something like that," Reacher said. He placed the teddy bear on the counter. "A little girl dropped this in the park." Sarah's eyes flickered towards the bear, and for a moment, her professional veneer cracked. Fear, clear and sharp. She quickly composed herself. "Kids are always losing things," she said, turning away to wipe down a perfectly clean counter. "Red hair. Name's Lily," Reacher pressed. Her mother looked scared. The man with them looked like he owned them. Sarah flinched. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You didn't see anything. Understand? You just picked up a lost toy. Leave it on the counter. Someone will claim it. Or they won't. Either way, it's not your business." "Trouble is my business," Reacher said quietly. Before she could reply, the bell over the door chimed. 2 men walked in. They weren't dressed like locals. They wore cheap suits that didn't fit their broad shoulders. They were cops, or close enough. They scanned the diner, their eyes landing on Reacher. They ignored everyone else. One of them walked over. "Afternoon," the man said. He had a thick neck and a face that looked like it had been used to stop pucks. "You're new here. I'm Sheriff Brody." "Reacher," he said, not offering a hand. "Just having a coffee." "I see that," Brody said, his eyes flicking to the teddy bear and then back to Reacher's face. "We're a quiet town. We like to keep it that way. Don't get many visitors who stay long." "Don't plan to," Reacher said. "Bus leaves at 6. "Good," Brody said, the word a flat command. "Enjoy the coffee, but I'd advise against picking up things that don't belong to you. Sometimes they belong to people who don't like strangers touching their property." The threat was as subtle as a punch to the jaw. Brody and his deputy took a booth by the window, their coffee arriving without them having to order. They weren't there for the coffee, they were there for him. Reacher drank his, slowly. He could feel Sarah the waitress holding her breath. The whole diner was holding its breath. The 6 o'clock bus was starting to sound like a very good idea. But then he thought of the terror in the little girl's eyes, and the way her mother had dragged her away from her lost toy. He put a few dollars on the counter, picked up the teddy bear, and walked out into the too-perfect sunshine. He wasn't leaving. Not yet. He needed a place to stay. The one hotel in town, the Caldwell Inn, was named after the family that apparently owned everything else. Reacher checked in, paying cash. The room was immaculate and soulless. From his window, he could see the town square. Brody's patrol car was still parked outside the diner. They were waiting to see if he'd follow instructions. He didn't. He spent the next few hours walking. He memorized the layout of the town, the patrol routes of the 3 police cars he saw, the placement of security cameras discreetly mounted on every lamppost. Harmony Creek wasn't just a town, it was a facility, a minimum security prison disguised with flower beds and white picket fences. Every person he saw looked over their shoulder. Every conversation stopped when he drew near. As dusk settled, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, a strange kind of stillness fell over the town. A siren began to wail in the distance. Not a police siren. A different kind. A community alert. Moments later, a message crackled over a town-wide PA system, the voice calm and authoritative. "Attention residents, an Amber Alert is now in effect. Lily Caldwell, age 8, has been reported missing. She was last seen in the town square wearing a blue dress. If you have any information, please contact the sheriff's department immediately. Please remain indoors. A curfew is now in effect." Reacher stood at his window, watching the street below empty as if by magic. Doors closed, lights went out, the town shut down. The kidnapping of a little girl, and the response was a calm, orderly curfew. There was no panic, no frantic parents organizing search parties, just obedience. This wasn't a search for a missing child. It was a lockdown. He knew Brody would be coming for him. A stranger in town on the day the founder's daughter disappears? He was the perfect scapegoat. He had about 10 minutes. He left the hotel room, not through the door, but through the window. He dropped silently to the soft grass of the courtyard below, melting into the deep shadows cast by the setting sun. He circled back towards the diner. It was closed, but a single light burned in the kitchen at the back. He found Sarah, the waitress, dumping trash into a bin in the alley. Her hands were shaking. "They're saying she was kidnapped," she whispered, her back to him. "She was," Reacher said from the shadows. Sarah jumped, spinning around, a small cry escaping her lips. You need to leave. They'll blame you." "Who are they?" Reacher asked, stepping into the dim light. "Sheriff Brody, or the man in the suit?" "Elias Caldwell," she breathed the name like a curse. "He owns this town. He owns the houses, the jobs, the police. He owns us." "What does he do?" "Caldwell Industries. Advanced technology, biotech, government contracts. We all work for him. We live in company houses, shop at the company store. It's a good life, as long as you follow the rules." "And what are the rules?" "Don't ask questions. Do your job. Smile for the cameras. And never, ever try to leave." "What happens if you do?" Reacher asked. Sarah's face crumpled. "My brother, David. He was a programmer at the main facility. He was brilliant, but he started seeing things that weren't right. He said they were doing experiments, things that crossed a line. He tried to get a message out. One day, he just vanished. They told us he was transferred to a European branch. We never heard from him again. The pieces began to click into place. The perfect town was a lie, a gilded cage built to house the employees of a powerful and secretive corporation. And Lily Caldwell was the founder's daughter. The Amber Alert is a fake, Reacher said. It wasn't a question. Sarah nodded, tears welling in her eyes. It's a performance. They do it whenever they need to. Remove someone. They create a story the outside world will accept. A kidnapping, a tragic accident. No one ever looks too close at Harmony Creek. So Lily isn't missing, Reacher deduced. She was taken by her own people. Why? I don't know, but her mother, Elizabeth, she's been terrified for weeks. She knew something was coming. She was trying to protect Lily. Headlights swept into the alley. A police car. Brody. Go, Sarah hissed, pushing Reacher back into the darkness. There's an old service road behind the woods. It's not on any maps. It's the only way out of here. They don't watch constantly. I'm not leaving, Reacher said. Not until I know where the girl is. You'll die. Probably, Reacher agreed. But they'll die first. He vanished into the woods as Brody's car crunched to a halt. Reacher moved through the trees, a ghost in the night. He wasn't a scapegoat anymore. He was the variable they hadn't accounted for. The Caldwell estate was less of a house and more of a fortress. It sat on a hill overlooking the town, a monument to wealth and paranoia, walls topped with razor wire, infrared cameras sweeping the perimeter, and patrols of grim-faced men in black uniforms. Getting in would be difficult. Getting out with a child would be close to impossible. Reacher watched from the tree line for hours, studying the patrol patterns, the camera blind spots, the shift changes. He was patient. The military had taught him that patience was a weapon. While he watched, he thought, the Amber Alert was a cover. Caldwell had taken his own daughter. But why? Sarah had mentioned experiments. Had the girl seen something she wasn't supposed to see? Or was she part of it? His mind went back to the look in her mother's eyes. It wasn't just fear for her child's safety. It was the look of a prisoner on the verge of a desperate act. The mother, Elizabeth. She was the key. He needed to find her. Brody would assume she was a grieving mother, locked away in the estate. Reacher doubted it. A woman that scared, a woman who knew the system, would run. She would hide. He thought back to Sarah. The waitress was his only link to the town's underbelly. He slipped away from the estate and made his way back to the diner's alley. He waited. It was past midnight when the back door creaked open. Sarah emerged, carrying another bag of trash. She was just a pretext. She was looking for him. "They came looking for you," she whispered into the darkness. "Brody and his men. They searched your hotel room. They're telling everyone a drifter kidnapped Lily." "Where's her mother, Sarah?" "They have her at the estate. That's the official story, that she's sedated, overcome with grief." "And the unofficial story?" Sarah hesitated, chewing on her lip. "I don't know for sure, but Elizabeth was my friend. She gave me this 2 days ago." She pulled a small, folded piece of paper from her pocket. "She said if anything happened to Lily, if they were separated, I should go here, and I should burn the paper." Reacher took it. It was a hand-drawn map. It led to an abandoned hunting cabin deep in the woods, not far from the service road she'd told him about. "She's there," Reacher said. "If she is, they'll find her," Sarah whispered. "They're sweeping the woods." "They're looking for me," Reacher corrected. "They think I have the girl. They won't be looking for the mother. Not yet." He memorized the map and handed the paper back to her. "Burn it." The cabin was dilapidated, barely standing, but a thin curl of smoke rose from the stone chimney. Reacher approached with caution, circling the clearing, checking for tripwires or lookouts. There were none. He knocked on the door, a specific rhythm he'd devised just in case. Tap, 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 tap. The door opened a crack. A woman's frightened eyes peered out. It was Lily's mother, Elizabeth Caldwell. Her face was pale and drawn, her beautiful clothes rumpled and stained with dirt. "Sarah sent me," Reacher said. "I'm here to help." She let him in. The cabin was sparse, containing only a small cot and a fireplace. Elizabeth held a small hunting rifle, and she held it like she knew how to use it. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling but firm. "A guy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time," Reacher said. "Your husband has locked down the town and told everyone I've kidnapped your daughter." "My husband is a monster," she said, lowering the rifle slightly. "He didn't kidnap her. He harvested her." Reacher's blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" "The project," Elizabeth said, her eyes vacant with horror. "It's why Harmony Creek exists. Elias believes the future of humanity lies in genetic perfection. He recruits the brightest minds in the world, brings them here to live and work, and their children, they're the subjects. From birth, they are monitored, tested, their DNA sequenced. They're looking for specific markers, for predispositions to intelligence, strength, longevity. And Lily? Lily is perfect. Genetically, she's exactly what he's been trying to create for 30 years. She's the culmination of his work, but she was supposed to stay here, under his control. Recently, she started changing, asking questions, showing too much independence. She wasn't conforming. For Elias, a flawed success is a failure. He was going to send her to the clinic. What's the clinic? It's a place they take the failures, the children who don't meet the genetic or behavioral standards. They call it re-education. No child has ever come back from the clinic. This was worse than a kidnapping. It was a eugenics program, hidden in plain sight. He staged the Amber Alert to explain her disappearance, Elizabeth continued, her voice breaking. He knew I would try to stop him. He's using it as an excuse to hunt me down and to find the outside man he can pin it on. You. Where did he take her? Reacher asked, his voice a low growl. The main lab. It's a subterranean facility beneath the estate. That's where he's holding her until the transport arrives tomorrow night to take her to the clinic. Then we have until tomorrow night. There's no getting in, she said, shaking her head in despair. The security is biometric. The guards are former special forces. It's impossible. Impossible is just a word, Reacher said. He looked at her, seeing not a fragile victim but a woman pushed to the edge, a mother bear ready to fight. You know the estate. You know the layout, the routines. You and I are going to walk in there and take your daughter back. The plan was simple, which meant it was incredibly dangerous. Elizabeth knew of a service tunnel that ran from a pumping station in the woods to the sublevels of the estate's main house. It was an old system, a relic from the original construction, not on any modern schematics. The entrance was sealed with a heavy steel grate, but as Elizabeth explained, Elias Caldwell was a man of routine. Every Tuesday and Friday, a maintenance crew did a pressure check. They would have the key. It was Friday. Reacher found the two-man crew easily. He didn't hurt them badly, just enough to relieve them of their uniforms, their key, and their consciousness. He and Elizabeth, now dressed in greasy coveralls, approached the pumping station. The guards at the main gate won't challenge a maintenance team, Elizabeth whispered, her heart hammering against her ribs. But inside the tunnel, there are cameras and pressure plates. You tell me where they are, Reacher said. I'll take care of them. The tunnel was dark and smelled of damp earth and ozone. Elizabeth guided him, pointing out the nearly invisible lenses of the cameras, the sections of flooring that would trigger alarms. Reacher moved with an unnerving grace for a man his size, disabling the cameras with a few quick snips of a wire cutter and bypassing the pressure plates by walking the narrow maintenance pipes that ran along the walls. They emerged through a floor panel into a sterile white corridor. The air was cold, recycled, and carried the faint antiseptic smell of a hospital. This was the lab. They could hear the low hum of powerful machinery. His private office is at the end of this hall, Elizabeth breathed. The holding rooms are connected to it. He'll be there, watching her. They moved down the hall, their work boots silent on the polished floor. Two guards stood outside a heavy steel door. They were armed with tactical carbines, their body armor marking them as serious professionals. They saw the maintenance uniforms and tensed, their hands going to their weapons. "Maintenance check," Reacher grunted, not breaking stride. "We weren't told about a check," one of the guards said, blocking their path. Reacher didn't answer with words. His right hand shot out, grabbing the barrel of the guard's carbine and shoving it upwards. At the same time, his left elbow drove backwards into the second guard's throat. The first guard tried to wrestle the weapon back, but Reacher was already inside his guard, his knee coming up with brutal force. The man crumpled. Reacher spun, catching the choking guard with a short, sharp jab to the temple. Both men were down and unconscious in less than 3 seconds. Elizabeth stared, wide-eyed. "How did you—" "Let's go," Reacher said, taking a key card from one of the guards and swiping it through the lock. The door hissed open. The office was opulent, a stark contrast to the sterile hallway. Dark wood, leather chairs, and a massive desk. And one entire wall was a one-way mirror looking into a small white room. Inside the room, sitting on a small cot, was Lily. She was wearing a simple white gown and holding the one-eyed teddy bear Reacher had left at the diner. Standing over her was Elias Caldwell. He was tall, silver-haired, and radiated an aura of absolute power. He wasn't speaking to Lily. He was speaking to someone on a screen on the wall. "The specimen is stable," Caldwell was saying. "Her rebellious tendencies have been neutralized with a mild sedative. She will be ready for transport at 2200 hours. The clinic has been prepped for her arrival." He turned as the door to his office opened. He saw his wife and the huge, imposing stranger beside her. There was no shock on his face, no surprise, only mild annoyance. "Elizabeth," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I knew you didn't have the courage to run far, and you've brought the hired help. Disappointing." "It's over, Elias," she said, her voice shaking. "Let her go." "Let her go?" Caldwell laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "She is my life's work, my legacy. You would have me throw it all away because of some sentimental maternal foolishness? She's a child, your daughter." "She is a blueprint," Caldwell corrected. "And the blueprint has a flaw. It must be corrected." He pressed a button on his desk. "Security to my office. We have intruders." Reacher moved. He crossed the room in 2 long strides. Caldwell reached for a drawer, but Reacher's hand clamped down on his wrist, the sound of bone grinding making Caldwell gasp. "Alarms don't bother me," Reacher said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I'm going to walk out of here with the girl and her mother. The only choice you have is whether you're breathing when I do." From the corner of his eye, Reacher saw movement. A section of the wood-paneled wall slid open, revealing Caldwell's head of security, a hulking man with a scarred face and dead eyes. He held a pistol, leveled at Reacher's head. "Let him go," the scarred man said. Reacher didn't release Caldwell. He simply tightened his grip. Caldwell's face went pale with pain. "If he shoots, you die first," Reacher told him. "Tell him." Caldwell, gasping for breath, nodded at his man. "Hold your fire, Kane." The standoff lasted for a frozen second. Then Elizabeth acted. She grabbed a heavy glass paperweight from the desk and threw it with all her might at the one-way mirror. It didn't break, but a spiderweb of cracks appeared, the impact echoing like a gunshot. In the white room, Lily screamed. The sound broke the tension. Kane lunged. Reacher shoved Caldwell into the desk and met the charge. It was like hitting a brick wall. Kane was a brawler, all brute force and aggression. He threw heavy, club-like punches. Reacher didn't try to match his power. He deflected, parried, using Kane's own momentum against him. A deflected punch became a twisted arm. A forward rush was met with a trip, sending the big man sprawling. As they fought, Elizabeth was already at the door to the holding room, fumbling with the keypad. Caldwell, recovering, pulled a small derringer from an ankle holster. He aimed it at his wife's back. "Get away from the door, Elizabeth." Reacher saw it. He disengaged from Kane with a powerful kick to the knee, sending the man howling to the floor. He dove, tackling Caldwell just as the derringer fired. The shot went wide, shattering a computer monitor. Reacher wrenched the tiny gun from Caldwell's hand and threw it across the room. The holding room door slid open. Elizabeth rushed in, scooping a terrified Lily into her arms. "Mommy!" the girl cried, clinging to her. "It's okay, baby. We're leaving." Kane was getting back to his feet, his leg buckling but his face set in a mask of grim determination. Reacher knew they didn't have time for another fight. "Go!" he yelled to Elizabeth. "Back the way we came!" She ran, carrying Lily. Reacher backed out of the office, keeping his eyes on Caldwell and Kane. "You won't make it out of the town," Caldwell snarled, clutching his injured wrist. "I'll lock down every road. I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth." "Good," Reacher said. "It's always nice to have something to look forward to." He slammed the office door shut and wedged a heavy chair under the handle. It wouldn't hold them for long. He ran, catching up to Elizabeth in the sterile corridor. Alarms were blaring now, red lights flashing. "They'll be coming from every direction," Elizabeth gasped as they ran. "We're not going back to the tunnel," Reacher said. "They'll expect that. Where's the nearest exit to the surface?" "The loading bay, but it's heavily guarded." "All the better." They reached the loading bay, a vast, cavernous space filled with crates and vehicles. As expected, 4 guards were converging on their position, raising their weapons. Reacher pushed Elizabeth and Lily behind a large forklift. "Stay here." He didn't run at them. He ran away from them, drawing their fire, weaving between stacks of shipping containers. The guards split up, following him into the maze. It was a mistake. They were hunters. But Reacher was a predator. He took them out one by one in the shadows, a chokehold from behind, a hard fall onto the concrete floor, a disarmed weapon used against its owner. It was fast, efficient, and brutal. Within a minute, it was silent again. He found an armored transport truck, the kind used for high-value cargo. The keys were in the ignition. "Get in," he told Elizabeth. She climbed into the passenger seat, clutching Lily. Reacher got behind the wheel. The engine roared to life. He slammed the truck into gear and hit the accelerator. The huge steel door of the loading bay stood in their way. Reacher didn't slow down. The truck hit the door with the force of a battering ram. Metal screamed and twisted, and then they were outside, bursting into the night. The estate grounds were swarming with security. Reacher drove straight through a manicured hedge, across a lawn, and smashed through the main gate, ignoring the shower of bullets that peppered the armored plating. He raced down the hill towards the town. Brody's police cars were already forming a roadblock at the bottom. "Hold on," Reacher said. He didn't try to go around them. He aimed for the gap between 2 patrol cars and plowed through, sending them spinning out of the way. He sped through the silent, sleeping streets of Harmony Creek. The perfect town now looked like a war zone in his rearview mirror. He headed for the old service road Sarah had told him about. It was their only chance. As they hit the dirt track, the truck lurching and sliding, he saw headlights behind them. One car, coming fast. Sheriff Brody, making his last stand. Reacher kept driving, pushing the heavy truck as fast as it would go. Brody's car was faster, lighter. It gained on them, pulling alongside. Brody leaned out his window, pistol in hand, and started firing at their tires. Reacher swerved hard, ramming the side of the police car. Metal scraped against metal. Brody fought for control. Reacher hit him again. The police car spun out, hit a tree, and wrapped itself around the trunk in a tangle of smoking metal. Reacher didn't stop. He drove for another 5 miles until the service road met a small, forgotten county highway. He pulled over, the engine idling. The sounds of pursuit had faded. They were clear. For now. He turned to Elizabeth. "There's a bus station in the next town over. 30 miles east. Get on the first bus heading west. Lose yourself for a few days, then call the FBI. Tell them everything. Tell them to look into Caldwell Industries and a town called Harmony Creek." "What about you?" she asked, her eyes full of gratitude. "Come with us." Reacher shook his head. "They'll be looking for 3 people. Soon they'll only be looking for 1. It's better this way. I'll draw them off." He got out of the truck. Lily looked at him from the passenger window, her eyes no longer filled with terror. She held up the one-eyed teddy bear. "Thank you," she whispered. Reacher just nodded. He watched as Elizabeth slid into the driver's seat and pulled the massive truck onto the highway, heading east. He stood there until its taillights disappeared into the darkness. Then he turned and walked west, down the center of the empty highway. He had no destination. He had no plan. He was just a man who had stumbled into a city of lies and walked out with the truth. The sun was beginning to rise, and it was a good day for walking.